Hi guys, so happy to be with you all today, and this is the first time I'm using StreamYard to multicast to multiple places, so like YouTube, Facebook page, and groups. I will say that if you're on a group, and you're watching this on one of the groups, you can't post. So if you really want to ask me questions and you want to post, then either go to the YouTube channel or go to my Facebook page. So I'm going to put my Facebook page URL in the comments here in case some of you want to ask questions. But the groups, it doesn't allow you to post, which is a bit of a bummer. So I'm just going to put my Facebook page in, because there you can watch the live. And you can also make comments. Let me give you that. Let me give you that link. So here it is. So I'll post the link in the comments. I think you can see my comments on the groups, but you might not be able to post them. So I'm just gonna send that. Okay. So today we're going to be talking about this advanced course that's coming up in at the end of the month on Saturday and Sunday, and I'm very excited about it because it's really a level of the inner alchemy practice that is, we can say, responsible for creating more freedom in your life. You know. Okay, great. Someone just said awesome energy. Wonderful, wonderful, great. Thank you very much. So anyway, yeah, this level of practice, working with ancestral influences, working with the energy body of the earth, is, I would say, one of the most important levels of practice in the inner alchemy mystery school. And inner alchemy, Taoist inner alchemy, really is a mystery school, because it was taught in secret, mostly from master to disciple, you know, from master to student. And even now, when myself and Michael go to China, you know, the Taoist adepts there are very surprised at the level of our practice. You know, they're almost shocked. They say, "Oh, these things, they're very secret." And in China, you know, these things are kept very secret. So one of the reasons that I'm an alchemist is because the main reason is because it gave me the clearest map possible that I've ever seen of how divine consciousness, how the oneness became everything. And so that map is really important, and some of you are aware of that map because you've studied with me. And that map was created by my mentor, Michael Wynn, and that map has been very helpful for me on my own journey. So it's very important we have a map of consciousness to know where we're going and to know how we're getting there. And also we need tools to be able to get there as well. So as I said, this is a level of practice that is actually very freeing for us. And so I really want to spend some time laying out the difference, first of all, between the soul and the personality. Because if we don't understand that difference, then we are going to be flying blind in a way. Okay. So this morning, for example, I was meditating, and I was doing a special Taoist meditation called Lesser Karnali, which is specifically designed to awaken awareness of the soul within you and to give the soul substance within yourself. You know, so many of you know, this idea of soul, this concept of soul, for most of us, it's conceptual. It's not an experience. And the whole purpose of Gong, the whole purpose of inner alchemy, is to make the soul more concrete and more real for you. Okay, so that's the real purpose, is to actually make your multidimensionality, because the soul doesn't really live in linear time, it lives in a more multidimensional space, is to make that soul more concrete and more real. And it's part of my mission to demystify that, because everyone talks about the soul, but not many people really understand how to actually give the soul substance and to give it will here in this dimension. And all of the inner alchemy formulas are designed to do that. Okay. So how most of us are aware of our soul is by our presence. So there's no doubt that when we're dreaming, or when we're, in a very intense emotional state sometimes, or when we're full of love, there's actually something inside every human being that is witnessing that, which we could say is your inner presence, your inner consciousness. That is an aspect of the soul. And the job of the alchemist is to make that soul more real. It is to make it your primary identity. Okay. So another word that the Taoists use for this is the energy body. The soul is part of the energy body. And what's important to understand about the energy body is that it's a continuum. So it's a continuum from unity consciousness all the way down to our physical body. So even our physical body is really energy, but it's moving and it's vibrating very slowly. Okay. And so why is this important? Because in many traditions, they tend to make this a sort of dualistic how can you say, a comparison, like, oh yeah, the body is more physical and and the soul is much, much better. The soul is somehow superior, and of course it is superior. But the Taoist perspective is that body is just as essential as the soul. The body is just as essential as the soul, including the five senses and what we call the personality. It's part of the continuum. So in Taoist alchemy, we're not trying to deny the body or deny the ego or deny the senses. We're actually trying to integrate all of them into a functional whole. Okay, a functional whole. So one of the most important things to understand about the soul is that it's always looking. It's never seen. It's always looking. It's never seen. And so how most people approach their spirituality is they use the five senses, and they use the five senses to look inwards towards the soul. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that oftentimes we waste a lot of energy like that. So the Taoists, from the very beginning, they say you want to actually start realizing that your soul is actually looking and is actually generating the personality, it's generating your body, it's generating the five senses. It's the consciousness in you that's always looking, is always present. And for the Taoists, it's not enough just for that to be an intellectual concept. It also has to have a sense of substance. It has to have a sense of solidity inside of you, so that your identity can shift more and more to the soul. And so I want all of you to, as you're listening today, to try to feel your soul is in these deeper dimensions, but it's looking out of your eyes. It's causing your breath to breathe. It's allowing you to speak. It's allowing you to smell. It's allowing you to see. It's the deepest aspect of yourself that most people are a little bit unconscious of, And so this is why the Taoists call the first thing you learn is what's called the inner smile, which is really the inner soul smile. And it's just becoming conscious that your soul is always emanating this pure essence qualities of love and presence into this dimension. And so the whole purpose of inner alchemy is to make those deeper unconscious levels in most people more conscious, all right. So and you may feel like I'm diverting from the subject, but I am going to get into ancestral influences. I am going to be talking about how important the energy body is, but I want to set up this understanding of the difference between the soul and the personality, okay, for us to really understand. So this morning I was meditating and I had a very powerful, I've had often these experiences of the soul, And one of the things about the soul is that it's so connected to everything else. It's what I call interdependent. It's completely connected to everyone else's soul. and also connected to the whole collective, including the source. And when you actually get in touch with that level of your being, and many people have it with psychedelics, for example, with things like DMT or mushrooms, they suddenly have this expanded consciousness. And to really understand the glory of the soul, it really is, you can't really put it into words because it's such a powerful experience. It's what we're all longing for, actually, is the majesty of our own soul, is to actually feel what that, to get in touch with that vibration, I would say, is the most important thing in your life, because contained at that level within yourself is all this incredible wisdom. So as I was meditating this morning, I was just getting so much wisdom flowing in from my soul, just beautiful insights about life. And oftentimes I have to write them down afterwards, because they're sort of coming in not in a linear fashion, but they're actually arising from the inside as transmissions, and these transmissions are not linear, and they're not in words. They're more a frequency of feeling, or a frequency of being, that we could say. So all of this is very conceptual unless you have a practice, unless you have a way to actually start to embody your soul. Okay. And so that's why I'm sharing Gong all around the world, because it's the most powerful, I would say, beginner's practice, even though you can practice it at many levels. But it's very good for beginners who haven't had an experience of their soul, or they may have had it and not realize it. But when you practice Gong, you actually experience the peace of your soul, And so the soul is not dependent. It's not codependent. Our personality has layers and layers and layers of codependency. We could become codependent on Gong. You could become codependent on inner alchemy. You could become codependent on any teacher. But the soul is not like that. The soul is completely interdependent. It's totally free, and it's totally wise, and it's full of unconditional love, and peace. And it's self-contained. That's what I want to say. So if you think of codependency, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with codependency. On some level, we're all codependent, okay? I mean, we are. That's just the nature of the personality. But I can tell you that our soul is not codependent. It's integrative. It's whole, okay? And it's beyond wholeness. And so this is really important to understand, that we have this wholeness inside of us. And this is why I share Gong, because invariably complete beginners who practice Gong, they have an experience of this wholeness, an experience of this peace, an experience of deep centering and deep alignment inside of themselves, okay? So the question becomes, really, is if we are connected to the whole universe, as all the teachings say, what is it that stops us experiencing that? So I know, I've spoken to many students and friends of mine, and invariably one of the things that they say is that they can have an experience, a high experience, but it's very difficult to sustain on an ongoing basis. It's sometimes people say that, they have this incredible heart opening, which is often a soul download in the heart, that the heart is opening from the inside. That's a sure sign of the soul, cracking open the heart in a way, and this is what happens when the love of the soul enters the heart. It is completely healing, and so many people have had this experience. But the challenge is how to maintain it, and that's been a challenge for my life, for most of my life. And I'm happy to say, over the many, many years of my practice, I'm starting to get a consistency in the feeling in my heart of my soul. And it's incredible. And I want to share it with everyone else. And it's not a quick fix. It's a journey, because these layers in the personality, these layers of what in many traditions they call ego, these layers of yin-yang patterns that are sort of stuck. These are layers of codependency. These are layers of pain. These are layers of identification with just the surface of who we are. There are many, many layers, you know, and it takes a little bit of time to unwind some of those layers, okay? But this is where it gets interesting, okay? Because, and this is where a lot of people get very frustrated on the spiritual path. And I want to talk here about the real thing in the real limitation, or we could say limitation is not maybe not the right word, but we can say the main fog, if you like, the fog that doesn't allow us to experience our souls is ancestral. I would say that with my hand on my heart. That is the biggest blockage to us experiencing our soul. And oftentimes the really challenging things and the really deep things inside of us that we keep meeting all the time, like things like serious disease, for example, or patterns of emotional behavior that just don't shift no matter what we do. These are often a sign of what we call ancestral influences. And oftentimes many people ask me, how do you tell the difference between a personal issue and an ancestral issue? And actually it doesn't really matter. But I would say that it's things that are very stubborn, things that are really challenging to shift. And paradoxically, these very deep things, these things that are very difficult to shift, these are the things that are actually pointing to our destiny. And the reason is because these patterns usually have been passed down through our bloodline. That's what that word means, bloodline. It's a line in linear time, going back in time, that patterns are being passed down, okay? So patterns are passed down in your personal bloodline, but they're also passed down collectively through all of humanity, okay? And one of the things that's not very well understood is where those patterns are stored. So I'm going to be talking about that tonight, and also as I go along now, if you could just post questions as I go, because I'm covering a lot of things here, and you know, if you have any questions or anything that you would like to post, please feel free to ask anything, okay? And some of you can okay, I'm just experimenting with the StreamYard to see how it works here. But anyway, if you can post questions, I can also invite some of you into the stream if you want to ask questions or anything like that, okay? So feel free to just say in a comment if you'd like to come online and join in, and I will bring you onto the live stream and you can ask your question in real time. It's quite easy for me to do that, actually. So just let me know in a comment if you'd like to ask a question in real time, or you can just ask a question here and now, okay? So let's talk about time. Let's talk about the earth, let's talk about the moon, and let's talk about the sun. Because these things, the earth, the moon, and the sun, these are what really define time, right? So what do I mean by this? Well, think about our planet, right? It spins on its axis every 24 hours, and that defines one day for us, okay? So that spinning of the earth defines one day, 24 hours. The moon moving around our earth every 29 days defines what's called a lunar month. And those of you that are on the Gong 29-day lunar challenge will know what I'm talking about here. So there's another movement in our solar system, the moon moving around our planet, that defines time. It defines a month. And then our planet spinning and moving around the sun in 1 year, in 365 days, is another definition of time. Okay, so we can see how deeply the earth, the moon, and the sun are tied up in our understanding of time. Those are the mediums of how we define time as a human being on the surface of the earth. Okay, so I want you to really feel into this. Right now, there's 7.5 billion. I think it may be 7 billion or 7.25 billion people on our planet, right? And all of them are experiencing time through the spinning of our Earth, the moon moving around, and the Earth moving around the sun. Okay, and it's almost like the sun and the moon are cooking humanity on the surface. And that's been going on for generations, generations and generations and generations, you know. And so often when we think about our Earth, we only think about the surface. We only think about the surface aspect. We think of all these billions of people on the planet. But the Earth is so much more than her surface. And I've talked a lot about this in my classes. The Earth has a deep intelligence in it. You know, basically for human beings to be born here, you know, the Earth has to give permission for humanity to be birthed here. So there's a deep connection between the body of ourselves and the body of Mother Earth. So not only are we one species on this planet, you know, we're one of 50 billion species on the planet that Mother Earth is birthing out of herself. Okay, so try to think of Mother Earth not as this dead piece of rock spinning in space, but as a living being, because that's what she is. Okay, so I'm going to let you sit with that for a little while and just feel into the truth of that. 7 billion of us on the planet, on the surface of the Earth, being cooked by time, by the movements of sun and moon. Okay, and those are cycles that are happening, you know, and have been happening for a long time. Okay, so there's a question that just came up and I want to read it. How can we tell the difference between our shadow energy and something being projected upon us? Is the cause of these patterns and negativity always internal ultimately? Oh, I love that question, Roxanda. I love that question. Well, my answer to that is very simple. If it sticks to you, if it sticks, then it's obviously something inside of you that resonates with whatever it is. Okay, if it doesn't stick, and this is the whole purpose of inner alchemy, is to bring more and more yuan qi into our energy body, more and more neutrality into our energy body, then it is very difficult for things to stick to us. Yeah, including ancestral patterns. You know, so this is the purpose of inner alchemy. This is my mission: is to really clarify how to have your energy body more neutral, you know, because that is the secret source, if you like, of life. Okay, because yuan qi is completely neutral. You know, yuan qi is the energy, if you like, the energy of God or the energy of grace. It's creating this whole experience. It's creating this whole matrix. It's the ground of the matrix. And in alchemy, we're consciously cultivating yuan qi. Gong is designed to cultivate yuan qi inside of yourself. The more you practice it, the more you will build up the yuan qi inside of you. And then, of course, there are the 7 inner alchemy formulas of immortality that I also teach. And I'm planning a mentoring program, a year-long mentoring program for people that are really interested in that. But you know, there's a lot of work in preparing for that. But the inner alchemy formulas deepen the experience of Gong. Gong is like a way for everyone to get benefit. Inner alchemy, the inner alchemy formulas, those are for, I could say, more committed students who really want to become free, I would say. Okay, Gong can do that. It can create freedom for you. on many levels. I mean, you know, it's very powerful. But you also need the inner alchemy formulas as well. And part of this advanced course is I'm going to be introducing using what I call the allies, you know, the allies of the sun, the moon, and the earth, because we need allies to deal with collective issues. And this is where most people get hung up, is because they think they can deal with collective issues through their own personal will. And honestly, you cannot, because these issues are so deep, they're so powerful. Anyone who's had a hereditary disease or, you know, something very serious knows what I'm talking about. These issues, these deep ancestral issues, like deep rage that comes out of you sometimes, most often violence and rage is coming in from an ancestral pattern. And you can't deal with that at the mental level, at the emotional level. It's so powerful. You need allies. You need the allies of nature to dissolve those patterns. So this is what inner alchemy is about. It's about using allies, using like the sun, the moon, and the earth, so that you don't have to do it at the personal level, because otherwise you'll be overwhelmed. And I've seen this play out in so many times in so many systems, where people don't have enough understanding of the difference between personal issues and collective issues. And it's so important to understand how powerful the collective issues are, and not to attempt to try to dissolve those just at the personal level. It's virtually impossible in my experience. You have to use allies, okay? And so this is what this advanced course is about, okay? So I hope that's some clarity there about that. Any other questions before I go on over everything I've covered? Okay, so it looks like there's some group things going on. I'm trying to join for the video intro on the advanced course that it's happening now, and I can't see a link. Okay. Okay. Okay, so let's take a breath, and let's talk about these ancestral patterns and where they're stored. So basically, they're stored in the energy body of our earth. Okay, they're stored in our blood as well, in our blood, as patterns in our blood from our bloodline, but they're also stored in the energy body of the earth. And this is why we're seeing right now so much upheaval on our planet, because Mother Earth is rebirthing herself. So as she rebirths herself, all of her children, which is all of us basically, have to be rebirthed as well. You know? And so this is what you're seeing right now all over the world, is an incredible purging of, I would say, deep collective issues that need to be addressed, you know. And so this is why people are taking sides so readily. You know, you'll notice a lot of this, a lot of taking sides. And this is because the main energy that is being healed, I would say, in humanity is what I call the energy of violence, or the energy of, at a very simple level. Let's talk about it at a very simple level, because it's important to understand this. This is an ancestral pattern of humanity. It's the energy of violence, but at the personal level, it's the energy of the need to be right. The need to be right. And if you look at everything that's happening around the world right now, you're going to see people taking sides. You know, you've got the scientists and the materialists believing their view of reality is right. And then you have the people that are more spiritual or more yin, believing their view of reality is right. And everything's all right, right? But it's this conflict. This is the root of violence. It's the root of war. It's the root of everything, actually. And this is being purged out of humanity's system right now. This fighting energy. Okay, this fighting energy. The good news is the base of that energy, the real, the virtue of that energy, what's underneath it all is the longing for freedom. The longing for freedom. So try and do a reframe, if you like, about anger, violence, and the need to be right as the longing for freedom. And of course, most people project this need to be right, this blame, pointing fingers, and taking sides and being really rigid, right? Being really rigid. Actually, it's the longing for freedom. It's the longing for freedom. And there's another aspect there, and it's the wounding of innocence. It's violation of innocence. Okay, so this is what's being purged. This is my inner sage, what I've been discovering deep in meditation. It's an ancestral pattern. And basically, anytime you get angry or upset, anytime you blame, this ancestral issue of violence and the violation of innocence is at the root of it. So every one of us on some level has been violated. And anger, if you look at anger is just a way to say enough is enough. The problem with this anger and with this history that humanity have of wars, and of violence and of violation, that's been going on for a long, long, long time. And those patterns are stored in the energy body of the earth. They're stored there. And in alchemy, we can learn how to align our energy body with the sun and the moon and what I call the deeper aspect of the earth. So there's a more superficial level, which we could call the astral level of the earth. And this is where all these thought forms, these violent thought forms and violation thought forms and all of the thought forms that we think of as challenging for humanity, like being a victim or guilt or shame or violence, all of these are stored in the subtle astral body of the earth. They're also stored in our blood, but also in the subtle body of the earth. And basically, that storage of thought forms has been there for millennia. For millennia. It wasn't always like that. There was always an Eden consciousness. And there's something inside each of us that recognizes that Eden consciousness. This is why we're so drawn to harmony and balance. But it's important to understand that these patterns, these collective thought forms, they are the real obstacle to humanity connecting back to their soul. So one of the things to understand about the soul is if every human being on the planet right now knew they were an immortal soul and had a deep connection to it, there would be no need for external morality. There would be no need for law, for rules, for institutions. There'd be no need for borders. There'd be no need for government, because everyone would be sovereign. Everyone would be feeling their own soul's love. And we would just laugh at any form of constriction, any form of external structure or external morality. But this is the big thing. So if every one of us was in touch with our soul right now, there'd be no need for law, for government, for morals, none of that, because we would be in touch with the love of our soul. There'd be no need for that. So I just want you to imagine that if you can, like no government and no borders, and it would be the most natural thing in the world, the most natural thing, and everyone would accept everyone, because everyone would know that everyone is a shard of God. Everyone is a spark of God. Everyone is, that's what a soul is. It's a shard, a spark of pure consciousness, okay? So the main impediment to that are these ancestral influences that are very powerful, that actually are stopping our planet from rebirthing ourselves. So humanity is the problem, actually. Humanity is the problem, you know. And but it's shifting, you know. Humanity is the problem, and humanity is also the solution, you know. So yeah, I want to go to some of the comments because Rodriguez is saying this violence also manifests as self-aggressiveness, and it's paradoxical. It happens with the mild people. Yeah, thank you, Rodriguez, for saying that. Yeah, because this violence is not just externally into us, but we're also violent towards ourselves. You know, it's amazing to me um, as I've walked this path for quite a few years. It's amazing to me discovering how many levels of of we could say self-hatred there are in our energy body. There are pockets of them inside of ourselves. First of all, we have the personal level, like the shame we experienced as a child, but then we have these deeper ancestral issues, where, so for example, this whole thing of violence, um, that is a very very powerful imprinting in the collective, and as I said, it's being brought up now, it's being purged through us, and you'll notice people have lost patience with each other, yeah. So so right now we're seeing a lot of this playing out, uh, and it's very important not to get caught up in that. It's really, really important not to get caught up in it. So one of the things that I highly recommend for all of you is definitely you can engage in social media, you can engage in conversations, you can talk to people about, all of these things, but notice where you personally are triggered, So this happened to me recently. I want to share a personal experience about it because this was an ancestral issue that came up for me. And someone said something, and as I was lying awake one morning, it was on social media, and it's someone I know, and when they said it, I noticed I had a lot of anger inside of me. And I noticed a part of me that wanted to make this person wrong, make this person like, and I was watching this, I was watching this pattern come up, and I could feel inside of me, my body was trembling, and I was thinking to myself, I had enough presence and awareness to think, what is this about? Well, why would I want to hurt this person? Why would I want to hurt them? And I got it, I really got it. I realized that it had nothing to do with this person. It was the fact that when I was younger, or even an ancestral pattern, I think it's an ancestral pattern, there was some type of violation. And so what was happening was I was projecting something onto this person about violation, and about innocence being hurt. I projected that what he was saying was some type of violation. And it may or may not have been. It doesn't really matter. The important thing is for me to take responsibility for that and to see that I had that inside of me. I mean, literally, it's very powerful. A lot of anger, a lot of violence in there, But at the same time, a lot of vulnerability. And I could feel, for maybe one of the first times in my life, that that violence is very close to vulnerability and innocence. I really want all of you to think about that. The next time you get angry and you get really upset about someone, it's usually because deep inside of you, there's been some type of violation of your innocence. And it doesn't make it any easier once you see that, but it actually, the clarity of it actually starts to shift something, actually shifts it. Okay. And this is what we want. We want to be able to shift these ancestral patterns. Okay. And as I said, you can't do it with your individual will alone. You have to use the power of the sun and the moon. So the sun and the moon are a higher octave of yin and yang. Okay. And they're very powerful. And so what I'm going to be teaching in the more advanced Gong course is the power of eclipses. Okay. So for those of you that won't be attending the advanced course, I'll just give you the little secret now, because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm holding anything back. But when you're doing this final movement of Gong, you want to feel like you're actually bringing an eclipse. So the sun and the dark moon in front of the sun. So you know what an eclipse looks like? It's the sun, and then you have the eclipse, you have the dark moon in front of it. So that becomes your pearl. You move the eclipse down your core channel, okay? You move it down your core channel, okay? And your body is really the Earth's body. So part of the training in Gong in deeper class is to extend your definition of yourself. That this body is really a reflection of Mother Earth's body, okay? And so that sun and moon is coming down the core channel, and you actually expand it. At the end of the practice, you expand it, and you let it cover your whole body. You let that eclipse energy grow and cover your whole body. And then you invite in any ancestral patterns that you're dealing with, whether it's a disease, whether it's violence, and you let it use the energy of the sun and the moon to be taken back to source. Okay, that eclipse energy is very, very powerful. And I'll be explaining more about this in the advanced course, but I just wanted, for those of you that might not be attending, to have something to play with. So you want to bring the eclipse down through the core channel, okay? And this is what will actually shift. And imagine that your body is Mother Earth's body, and that your practice of bringing that eclipse down is dissolving those ancestral patterns. You know, it's just an intention. You ask the sun and the moon to do the work for you. You don't actually have to do it. You don't have to personally process it. The sun and the moon will open up a portal to source, so that these ancestral patterns can be dissolved. This is the whole purpose. We need to dissolve the patterns in our bloodline. Okay, so there's another question here. Can you tell us more about the purging of violence in humanity? You mentioned how people are getting more impatient with each other. So how will this purging resolve? Everyone getting more violent is a sign of purging. How does this resolve into our rebirthing? Yeah, great question. So, yeah, I mean, we've just got to take responsibility for when we're triggered, basically. You know, the tendency for this blaming, blaming each other is a form of violence, And we have to understand that everyone out there is us. Everyone out there is us, is a reflection of us. So when you blame them or they blame you, it just perpetuates. I mean, this has been going on for centuries. This need to be right has been going on for centuries. It's not like it's a new thing, right? It's just that we've become more sophisticated at it, Now we have Facebook, where we don't even have to see each other, but we can still tear each other a new asshole, And it's still violent, right? Okay. So the first thing that I would say is, number one, is not to judge it. Think about Mother Earth. She's got 50 billion species on her, right? And she doesn't judge any of it. She's just supporting all of it. It's not easy for her. I'm pretty sure it's not easy to hold all of that, but she has enough yuan qi. This is the key thing. She has enough yuan qi, the neutral force, to be able to hold all of that, to hold all of those wars, right? And we can say, if we take the biggest possible perspective, which is, by the way, perspective is what heals violence, actually. Because once you widen your perspective and you see a bigger picture, that's what heals violence. Perspective is what heals violence, right? This is what Jesus meant when he was on the cross, when he said, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." He had another perspective, a much wider perspective, right? I mean, think about the Palestinians and the Jews. There is a bigger perspective than just Palestinian or Jew. There's a much bigger perspective. But how many Palestinians and Jews are willing to take that bigger perspective, to step out of their identity as a Jew or a Palestinian? Hardly any of them are willing to do that. Some are, Those that want peace, they're willing to have another perspective. So you can see how perspective heals violence, actually, because the more you expand your perspective, the less violent you become. I actually quoted something about this on Facebook recently where I said, the more we accept, the more we experience, I said, the multidimensionality of who we are, the less need we have to blame or to feel offended or to point the finger. The more we experience our multidimensionality and our sovereignty, the less need, But it's not enough just to say it. We actually have to feel it, right? We actually have to actually do it, right? And that's where the challenge is that most people only conceptualize it. They don't actually do it, right? So this is why I teach Wuji Gong. It's why I teach in alchemy, because we actually need very practical solutions to be actually to actually heal this. These are not easy things to resolve. These are challenging. These are not simple things to resolve. But with nature's help, we can do that. So I hope that answers the question. And definitely, yeah, this is what's happening now, is the rebirthing, the rebirthing. Yeah, the rebirthing. So let's do a little exercise, because one of the key things, I want to give you something practical to do now. One of the key things is making a connection between our personal energy body and Mother Earth's energy body. So we're going to do something very simple, like a healing sound. We're going to use the lung healing sound. This is a very basic inner alchemy practice. Some of you know it, some of you don't, but it doesn't matter. It's very, very simple. But what you do at the personal energy body level is you breathe in from your Ming Men, which is deep inside your navel. It's the point where we're drawing in fresh qi. So you're drawing in fresh qi, and because it's related to the lungs, you're feeling like this beautiful white qi coming from the deeper dimensions. You're inhaling, you're opening your hands up like this, and you're making the sound. It's like a sound, and you're releasing any sadness and heaviness and feelings of oppression out of your lung. This feeling of depression. You're releasing that. And then you bring the hands down, you practice the inner smile, and you connect in with the lung, with your lung spirit, And you smile, these beautiful white clouds, and you feel the lungs are filling with this white energy, and you cultivate the virtue of the lungs, which in this case is like courage and strength. The ability to stand straight, and to be open, and to be really open, and that's related to the lungs, to give you the strength to be very open. So you're smiling and you're feeling that. Okay, so that's your personal energy body. That's the lungs. Let's do it again. Inhale. You breathe in deep from the navel. Thanks, Rodrika, for the sound. That's right. And then you make this like a snake sound. You leave the eyes open. And you feel like heat coming out of your skin. A lot of times we get a lot of heat trapped in the organs. So and then when you're coming down, you feel the heat coming out of the skin of your arms. And you're coming down. And you're smiling into the lungs. You can rock the body. And you feel courage coming in from the soul. White color coming in from the soul. Okay, so that's working with your own personal energy body, with the lungs. But guess what? Mother Earth also has lungs. It's her atmosphere. So we're going to extend now our energy body. This is going to make it much more powerful. And we're going to actually use the energy body of Mother Earth, specifically her atmosphere. to actually shift something very deep inside our own lungs. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to breathe in from our Ming Men. And now when we breathe out, we're going to feel that we're breathing our energy out into Mother Earth's atmosphere. And we're imagining ourselves as big as the Earth, and we're breathing out into Mother Earth's atmosphere, into those white clouds around the planet. So all of us, let's do that. Visualize, feel that. And then feel like you're gathering in those clouds from Mother Earth. Breathe them in through the nose. And feel like you're drawing that into your own lungs, which are really Mother Earth's atmosphere. Just put your hands in front of you and just feel that you're connected in with the lungs of Mother Earth. And it's opening up your own lungs. It's very powerful, this. Smiling to all those white clouds. And feel how free the atmosphere of Mother Earth is. So free. Inhale, draw in from Mother Earth's atmosphere, those white clouds. Exhale out to her. And really feel your energy body as big as Mother Earth's energy body. And maybe you'll notice a lot of tightness in your chest as you do this, because Mother Earth's lungs are so big and so expansive. It helps us release our own holding. The lungs tend to hold on too much. And so you might start to feel some constriction in the lungs as you breathe into the Mother Earth's lungs. And you smile there. So there are many levels to this. Like, we're just doing the lungs there, but of course the kidneys relate to the oceans, you know. The heart, our fire energy, relates to like the volcanoes and the magma in the earth, you know. The wood energy inside of us relates to the trees and all growing things. And so when we start to realize that Mother Earth has her own energy body and we can align our energy body with her, that is an ally for us. That is a powerful ally for us. And is part of the internal alchemy formulas to actually start to resonate our energy body with Mother Earth's energy body. We intuitively know this. I talked about this on the intro. When we go to the beach, you know, we lie in the sun, we lie in the fire energy, and we swim in the water, and we immediately feel better. I don't know about you, but whenever I go to the beach, I feel fantastic. I have an amazing appetite afterwards. And that's the power of nature. That's the power. Remember, nature has a lot of yuan qi, 25%. Okay, human beings have a miserly amount, about 0.5% of yuan qi. This is why we feel so cut off from our souls, from those higher dimensions. So the solution is the cultivation of yuan qi. The cultivation of yuan qi. And that's what Gong does. That's what inner alchemy is about. Yeah, the sound all encompassing me, and I felt like it was all around me. There were many others doing it around me. Yes, I had the same feeling. That was beautiful. I felt that, and it made me laugh a little. Yeah. Yeah, Mother Earth is so powerful, you know. It's so powerful. So yeah, in our solar system, let's talk a little bit about the sun now. In our solar system, the sun is really the representation of our soul. That is the representation of the purity of our soul. So for human souls to incarnate here, we have to come through the sun. So once we come through the sun, then we hit the planets, and finally we're birthed through Mother Earth. So we can say the planets and Mother Earth are really storing all of the collective issues of humanity. The sun is outside of that. This is why in astrology the sun sign is considered, the royalty of your being. You're shining. So the sun is not impacted by all the collective energies of humanity. The earth is, the moon is, the planets are, but not the sun. So I want all of you to imagine that your soul is like the sun. It's sovereign. It's pure sovereignty. And when you realize your sovereignty, when you realize your soul song, you lose all fear of death, and you can actually start to dissolve these ancestral patterns, and it's very freeing when you do that. So this is why it's so powerful to use the sun and the moon, the eclipse, because here we have the sun very yang and the dark moon very yin. So what do those polarities do? That when you have that strong polarity, it opens you up to the yuan chi. So when you bring the eclipse down the central channel and you grow the eclipse to include your whole body, you can actually see the eclipse covering the whole earth, if you like, and dissolving those ancestral patterns. So, of course, it's not us individually doing that, but it's the intention. When we make that intention, and as we expand our energy body to include Mother Earth and the sun and the moon, then we can actually assist humanity in its speeding up process of clearing this ancestral backlog. This is the reason why things move very slowly here. These ancestral patterns have been backed up for generations and generations and generations. Those of you doing the advanced course, I'm going to be sending you a handout probably tomorrow. The team will be sending you it, and I'm asking some questions there, and those questions are about your mother and father, because obviously you were born into that bloodline, right? But instead of asking it from the personality point of view, we're asking it more from the soul. Because what I've noticed in my own life is that the challenges that my parents couldn't resolve for themselves, and all challenges are basically another way of saying a lack of self-love. So you'll like the way I've worded the question. The question goes something like this: if your mother had a lot of self-love, what would she have resolved for herself in her life? And the same for your father. What would he have resolved? And it's not an immediate conceptual answer. You have to really go deep into contemplation. That's why I'm releasing this handout before we do the course, because you, as their child, you actually have inherited their issues that they couldn't resolve, and there's no escaping that. Now you can, and I'm really grateful to a friend of mine, Amy, who said that she decided she's not going to deal with that. You have that choice. You can actually tell your ancestors, I don't want to deal with this right now. It's not like you have to deal with it. You can actually make a sovereign choice and say, I don't want to deal with the ancestral baggage of my parents. And that's a perfectly valid choice to make. I personally want to resolve that, because I feel that those patterns, they're so deeply ingrained in my own personality, unconsciously, that I want to resolve it, not just for them, but for me. But that doesn't mean you can't choose. You can choose not to. This is the great thing about sovereignty. So I don't want you to feel like we have to deal with ancestral patterns. You can actually say no. I'm not going to deal with you. That's a legitimate choice. But you have to be very honest about it, right? Because if you're not neutral about whatever it was your parents couldn't resolve, then from my perspective, you need to get more neutral, But if you're neutral, it's fine, Okay. So I think I'm going to call it quits there. I think I've covered everything I was going to cover in this live. I see there's a lot of you here, which is fantastic. It's pre-recorded, so I hope to see many of you at the advanced class. It's really only for people that know the Wujigong form. And I've encouraged even the beginners who were practicing to at least practice for a month beforehand. This is why we had this 29-day challenge, so that you can actually join in and have have at least the movements of the form, even if you've only done it for a month, you've got it in your body memory so that we can do some of this deeper ancestral work. So it's just important to understand that those patterns are stored in the earth. They are stored in your blood, and we need allies to dissolve them. And the most powerful allies in this level of practice is the sun and the moon, especially the eclipse. That is what dissolves them. So you can practice drawing the eclipse down your central channel is very, very powerful. Okay. Any other final questions before I finish the live? Speak now or forever hold thy peace. I did want to have someone come online with me and be live with me and maybe ask questions, but I'm still getting used to this multiple streaming, but it's quite fun. Okay, folks, I think I'm going to leave it there. It's been an hour, so lots of love to you all, and try that tonight. Try doing that healing sound and connecting into the Earth's atmosphere and see what happens in your own lungs. Really excited for the training this weekend. Thank you, Andrew. Okay, Antoinette, thank you. Enjoyed to work with nature and universe as allies. Overjoyed to work with nature and universe as allies. Absolutely, yes, yes. How do I sign up? Okay, we'll put a link in. I don't see your name, so I don't know who it is, but it says, how do I sign up? I will check where you posted that and I will put the link to signing up, okay? So no problem. And please tell us, what's this? Is it 12 days and how many hours and how to sign? Is it 2 days? Yeah, it's 2 days. That's right, it's 2 days. It's Saturday and Sunday. It's 3 hours on each day. And there will be homework. So there'll be homework before the course, which is related to the parents. And then there'll be homework. So the times are from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Bulgarian time. That would be quite early for UK time. It would be 8 a.m. to 8, 9 to 11. Paris time, it would be 9 to 12. And Bulgarian and Romanian time, it's from 10 to 1, okay? But don't forget, even if you sign up and you can't attend the lives, you still get access to the training, so it's not essential that you get up early. But anyway, it's in the morning. So I know for people in America, that's very, very early. So they might just want to attend the recordings, So yeah, so it's for 3 hours on Saturday morning and 3 hours on Sunday morning. There's some contemplative questions before the course and handouts, and then 3 hours training on the Saturday and the Sunday. And we'll be doing some very slow movements with the Gong form to really get in touch with these deeper energies that are inside ourselves and how to use them. So I'm excited to be offering it, and I'm glad so many of you are interested. So lots of love, everyone, and thanks for attending. And I'm quite excited about this StreamYard. It seems to do a really good job. What time UK? I think I mentioned that. Sol Sternus. Hey Sol, nice to see you. That was Channa Hall. Okay, Channa. Okay, I'll make sure I let you know where to sign up. Nice to see you. Hi, Hellian. Yeah, so excited to see you as well. Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. I really want to try and get some people on live with me to engage as well. So maybe next time I do one of these lives, I try and get a panel on as well, because I work much better when I have interaction. It's quite hard for me just to talk with no interaction. Okay, brilliant. Bye, everyone. See you soon. Lots of love. Ciao, ciao.